welcome to the Golden Hour and the Manifest to Live Life Golden podcast and YouTube show. I'm Golden Duffy, your host, and today we're talking about fear, how to overcome this emotion, this energy that you feel may be out of your control. You may feel like it comes in, it takes a hold of you, and then you can't get away from it. And right now, looking at the worldscape, I think there's a lot of fear going on. I think people are, fearful of the economy. There's a whole bunch of other things going on that could create a lot of fear. And because of that, you set yourself up for a vibration of fear. So the reality is you have a tendency to vibrate with some sort of fear that creates fear in your experience. If you are no longer fearful and you live from a life of faith, you're going to see very different things. You're going to see evidence of your faith in the world versus the fear. So that's why it's really important to get a handle on this so that you stop creating from fear. You stop vibrating with fear. It's always what you are in resonance to, and your emotions always teach you what you are in resonance. They are your guide to what you are in resonance to. So if you're not feeling good, if you're waking up and you're feeling anxious and you're worrying and you're in the middle of the night, you have this like monkey mind going on and you don't think that you can get away from it. You don't think there's any way that you can break free from it. I am going to hopefully dismantle that belief system today, because what you believe is what you create. And if you believe that the fears are outside of you and they're doing this to you and you don't have any control over them, then you won't really be able to change them. So what really is fear? I love the acronym. It's one of my favorite acronyms I think I've ever heard, and it's probably the only one that I really ever use. And that's false evidence appearing real. It is a story made up in our mind. So I had a post a little while ago. Let me see if I can find it, because it was in conjunction with this fear. And I had somebody comment on the actual post, and they were like, you do know some fears are real, right? And I really thought about that. And I really kind of got down to, is that true? I mean, obviously, if you have somebody chasing you, somebody trying to kill you, somebody trying to hurt you, of course, those fears are going to be real. Sometimes the comments on my stuff, I'm just like, duh. But because of that, because you have that mechanism, that fight or flight response, that is always in the energy of survival. And the fight or flight response was really important back in the days when we had animals chasing us, right? So it goes back to like those caveman times, the DNA. Now we have this fight or flight in survival mode that happens a lot of times for, things that are really don't warrant that kind of fear. So let me just share this post, because I think it's going to set up the conversation in a great way. So this was 5 days ago. False evidence appearing real. The fears that you conjure from thoughts of worst case scenarios are here to show you something. When you run from them and try to avoid what they represent, they get bigger, like the boogeyman under your bed. But what if you overcame your fears and looked under the bed? You would see that the boogeyman was a figment of your imagination. Once you examine your fears and acknowledge them, you will discover that you have no foundation. They have no foundation in your truth. The truth is that you are loved and supported in a world where you get to assist in the creation process. Your fears make you forget that you have infinite intelligence on your side, orchestrating for your best interests. But once you look within, it's just like looking under the bed. You discover the lie that the fear tells you. Anytime you're experiencing an up level, fears will reveal themselves to you, right? Like that's the getting out of your comfort zone. This is good news because it gives you an opportunity to clear them so you no longer create from them. Look deeply at the fears, track where they began in your experience, and then ask them to leave. Breathe deeply and imagine them leaving your body through the top of your head like smoke. I'm going to do an exercise towards the end of the show, so make sure you stay tuned or come back to the end of the show, and I'll do a little exercise that teaches you how to release fear when you are dealing with it. Breathe deeply and imagine them leaving your body through the top of your head like smoke. Then write a story of what you want to happen with as much feeling and faith as you can muster. come up with a great line that interrupts the pathways that drive the fear, such as everything always works out for me when I focus on what I want. This process is one that will serve your life to up level from creating through fear and chaos. You then become free to create from a foundation of faith. You are a powerful creator that no longer needs to be subject to the boogeyman that doesn't exist. You are here to grow beyond them. So, in that description of how to deal with fears or what fears really are, if you have a fear, if a fear is triggered within you, it was always in you. It wasn't the circumstance that created the fear. It was the circumstance that brought the fear to your attention. So I think that's important to realize and understand, that many times huge challenges or huge contrast happened to help you release the fears, to help you to face the fears, and then to show yourself through that process of creation that things do work out for you. So this conversation actually came from one of my listeners, one of my Facebook friends, and they're dealing right now, and I have so much experience with this, so I'm going to speak to this, but they're dealing with having to find a new place to live. And I know lots of us have dealt with this before. Especially, if you are renting and all of a sudden your landlord makes some sort of change and now you need to go find a new place. So you had no intention of moving. So there's that, right? You feel stable, you feel settled, you're paying your rent, you have your home is all set up. And then all of a sudden it comes to your attention that you're going to have to move homes, you're going to have to find a new home, you're going to have to come up with a deposit, all the things that have to do with finding a home, which can be very scary. So the first time this happened to us, we actually, let's see, how far back do I want to go on this? Yeah, I'll just go with the first time this happened to us. We were moving from Connecticut to California, and we landed here and had no place to live. We had 10 days basically to find a place because we were staying in someone's house who was in Hawaii for 10 days. So we began the scouting process. Now I want you to understand our credit scores at that point. I think my husband's was 450 and I think mine was around 6. So our credit scores were super low. So that was something that I was, I had some energy about, I had some fears about. And I'll never forget, we went to a real estate agent's office that somebody had referred me to, and he was just treating us like, we were kind of a charity case, and it made me really mad. So the interesting thing about powerlessness is you won't find anger in powerlessness, right? There's energy in anger. There's actually power in anger. As much as we don't want to walk around angry and invite more anger in, there's more power in anger than there is in powerlessness. So he made me angry. And sometimes angry gives us a determination and focus that we need to create quickly. Now, this scenario and a lot of the scenarios I have been through, and this was a realization that I had, is creating through chaos, right? Like all of a sudden something happens, there's a very short timeline and you need to create something really fast. So a boatload of fears will come up, but it's also like one of the greatest focusers when that happens. And if you can start to get away from, if you can face the fears and acknowledge them and release them and stand in faith, that ride is going to be a lot smoother. You're always going to manifest what you need, but the ride will just be a lot smoother and you won't feel like, you're being beat up and exhausted, right? So the hunt was on. We were looking from, and when you move to a new state that you don't really have a lot of awareness of, and you have kids that are going into school, you're very aware of wanting, right? Your desire is really strong to find the right place to make sure that your kids get into the right schools and all of that. So there was a lot riding on this. Also, signing up for a rent that we knew, we didn't know because we didn't even have incomes at that point, but that we had some sort of confidence about that we could actually pay, which was a whole other boatload of fear, right? So it was, I think, 3 or 4 days before, actually, were we? I think we were already in a hotel. So our 10 days were up. We had looked all over the place, couldn't find anything that wasn't like extremely like kind of gross and dated. And I remember this one place we looked at, they had this like shaggy brown carpet and it just was like dirty and gross. And I was like, I did not move to California to live in squalor like that. I knew that for sure. So I knew that there had to be a way for us to find a place that was nice and secure and comfortable and, would be the best place for our family. So we land in a hotel and we end up going through this town to get to another town to look at a rental. And I really liked the town. I liked the way it felt. I liked all the stores. It was a planned community. It felt really safe. I looked up the demographics. The demographics were really good for the schools. The schools got very high ratings. So as we went down over to this beach town to look at the rental we were supposed to look at, which didn't work out, it was like an apartment in a gas station parking lot. Yeah, an apartment above a gas station. Like what? Uh, I ended up getting an email from the apartment complex that we had that was in the same town of that place we stopped for gas. So I was like, okay, confirmation from the universe, right? Like if you're following the breadcrumbs, that would have been a breadcrumb. So I set up an appointment the next day for us to go and tour the facility, and it was beautiful, like literally beautiful. The apartments were, now mind you, we had been living in a house for, I don't know, 20 years. So like to go back to an apartment felt like a little bit of a step back, but the apartment was beautiful. They had a gym, they had 4 pools, they had hot tubs. It felt like a resort. And the apartment itself was 1,700 square feet. So it was a big apartment. It felt really clean. It felt very updated. It felt like, okay, we can land here, we can stay here. And we ended up staying there for a year. So that all worked out. And our credit scores didn't end up really becoming a problem. We had to put down like $400 extra because of the credit scores. And it was like no big deal. And luckily we had the money to do it because we had set a very strong intention to have a certain amount of money. So we had the money to do it, but the money started to run out. And because we had to put a house back together, we had no beds, we had no furniture, nothing. We used beach chairs for a while and a box from our vacuum cleaner for a coffee table. Like, this was like starting over from ground zero. So, as we, went through this process and my husband did get a job, and then I started doing coaching, I started doing energy sessions with people, we were barely making the rent. I think the rent was like $2,800 a month. So it was a scary time. There was one time when we didn't have rent and crazy miracles happened from that. Every time I've been in this situation, the most amazing, incredible, can't even explain miracles are orchestrated. And I realized through this process, through the second time of having to find a house in a really short time, which I'll tell you about. And I've shared these on other shows, other episodes, but I just want to kind of give you the trajectory of the fear and how we landed past it, like how we were able to stop creating from chaos. So the second time this happened to us, so we were in that apartment for a year, and then it started to get really condensed. Like we started to feel like there was a lot of noise. There were a lot of like loud mufflers. I couldn't stand the speed bumps. There was like, I don't know, 7 speed bumps to get to my apartment. And I was just, there was a gate that we had to go through. Our neighbors were loud. They had this one apartment that was right next to us. We only had people on one side of us. And they would bring people in like, I want to say it was like electricians or some people that were temporary, and they would be really loud and partying, and had yelled at them several times. So it was just getting like the nails in the coffin, I call it, where the energy starts to get dense and you start to feel unhappy. So we're like, okay, we need to find a place. So we start looking for another place. Nothing pans out. And then within like a week of the time, we had 1 week left to move, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do a whole year. Plus they were increasing our rent by a couple $100, which I was just like, this is crazy. We can barely afford it as it is. So like a week before a friend of ours said, hey, I just got off of a job that they're looking for people to rent this house. So we went and we looked at it. I wasn't crazy about the house, but it was a house and it would get us out of our apartment. It was in a cute little neighborhood. So we ended up renting that house for 1 year. In that house, we had a lot of trouble with the landlady. We did a lot of stuff to the house. We updated it. We painted cabinets. We put in new flooring. We did a lot of things for her. And through the trajectory of things that went wrong in the house, she ended up blaming us for stuff, and it became a 1 week time frame that we needed to get out. Like things were not good and we needed to get out, and it was intense. And I probably looked at 25 properties. And what you need to understand about California is the prices are bonkers. So we're in that house. It's like $3,100 a month. And we're kind of, not struggling with the rent, but every month it's kind of like this, hold your breath, like hopefully we have the rent kind of a feeling. So we start looking around and the rents are they're very escalated at this point. So I didn't want to go down. I didn't want to move like under, what I was already experiencing. And finally, the house that we live in today, which was 8 years ago, we ended up, when I walked in, it was like angels were singing. Like I knew this was the house. And every house was like, it had good points about it in the 25 houses I looked at, but it just like wasn't the right one. But the timeline was getting so tight. And I remember feeling like I had no fear about it. I've had total faith, but my body was feeling fear. Like my heart would be palpitating. I would just have like this anxious feeling, but my thoughts didn't back it up. So the fear didn't take me over. There was no boogeyman under the bed. I was looking under the bed, making sure there was nothing under the bed, right? So there was no fear to even face at that point, because I knew from the experiences that I had before this, I knew that everything always worked out for us. I knew that we were going to find the perfect place, that it was going to be amazing. I wrote down my intentions. I wrote down my list. There was only one thing on that list that we didn't achieve, and that was a swimming pool, which we actually have a gym with a beautiful swimming pool, so maybe not necessary. We have an incredible view, four bedrooms, a lot of space, like 3,000 square feet. So we ended up walking through that experience and not creating from chaos. So it doesn't mean that your situation isn't like dire. Not creating from chaos means you walk through with faith. You don't have those fears. You don't feel those fears. You don't give your power away to fears. The fears are not even there. So I really believe that over the course of everything we had been through, like major contrasts, major challenges, facing homelessness twice, those things help to expose all of these really intense fears that I had within me, which stem from, our house being foreclosed on in Connecticut and possibly not having a place to live, allowed me to clear those things. So once you clear them, if they come back, they're more likely to be just these transitory thoughts, but they don't have a lot of energetic movement in them. So they don't create a cycle that pulls you into a pattern of your neural pathways that create more fear, anxiety, and worry. So it's a process, but once you don't feel the fear anymore, you're kind of you're kind of liberated. You feel a freedom. You feel a very solid faith. Like now, one of my very strong feelings, and if you can get to this feeling, it is so impactful for your life, is everything that we do, every decision that we make. We just made a huge investment in something for our business that normally would spiral me, right? Like you go and you purchase something or you make a big investment, like a huge investment. And then it's the trajectory of the mind to take you into the regrets and the worries that it's not going to work out. And through this new experience this past weekend, I realized that we can't mess this up, that what we are deciding is perfect in the moment, and it's always going to lead us to more. So that's really good for you to know and to hear, that you are always being led to more. So the more fear you can walk through, the more of your comfort zone you can get out of, you're going to be able to handle the load of fear better in the long run. Running from fear, hiding from fear, it's like laying in your bed and thinking about the monsters under it, where there's no real, and then, hearing noises under the bed, or, that active psychological imagination that makes you think that there's something there that's not. It's false evidence appearing real. I don't know why this is popping up, but I'll share really quick. My kids had, really, really long time ago, when my kids were in elementary school, they had gotten lice. And I was terrified of lice. I think I had a childhood wound where my dad brought home tag sale stuffed animals and they had lice, and it was just horrible. Like, I just remember, like, just bugs on you is just like, I'm not okay with it. Right. So, I ended up spending $1,000 to have somebody come in to clean our house, clean our kids, like, get all the bugs. My one daughter had like 85 bugs. I mean, I was just like mortified about this, right? You feel dirty. You're like, it was almost too much for me to handle. I'm a very clean person. But what ended up happening was, I was so scared that they weren't gone that I kept using the shampoo that they gave us, which was like a tea tree oil. So I'm still itching like 2 weeks later. I still think that they're around. I'm still freaking out about it. And I end up going to the doctor because I'm like, I need to make sure that I don't have this because I'm flipping out. And the doctor looks at my head and he goes, you have an allergy to the lice shampoo. So it's like, it's your fears manifesting, right? It's like feeling like, so now I'm getting an allergic reaction to something that's causing the itching because I'm so afraid of the itching from lice. So it is a trajectory. It is a resonance. It's being familiar with the fear and inviting it and carrying it around in a backpack or carrying it around on your head. It's that, um, what do I want to say? It's like putting out the vibration of the fear is what creates more evidence of fear in your experience, right? Think about like when you were little. I don't know if you had boogeyman issues. I definitely had boogeyman issues. I had a lot of fear as a child. I had horrible nightmares as a child. In fact, when I was 6 years old, my family moved into a home that was actually a newer home. It was a brand new house. And I remember when we first moved in, we were sleeping on the floor. We just had mattresses on the floor. And I had my sister and I shared a room, and we were in this giant room at the top of the house. And my parents had a bedroom downstairs. And I remember I was like 6 years old, my mom running upstairs because I was like blood curdling, screaming in the middle of the night because I just had these horrible nightmares. So I've always had a very active imagination, which sometimes is good and sometimes not so good. So that fear of like something being there that's going to hurt you, or that you're not safe, right? That you have this unsafe, manifested in my life in a lot of different ways. It manifested in bullies. It manifested in, sibling rivalry. It manifested in so many ways that, to be able now to catch that and to really have faith that everything's going to be okay, and to steer myself away from, remember, the worst case scenarios are what drives the fears, right? Those scenarios that you come up with in your head that you say, I don't want this to happen. Anytime you say, I don't want this to happen, your attention is on what you don't want to happen. So if you say, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to be late, I don't want to get stuck in traffic, I don't want to see that person, whatever it is that you're saying that you don't want to, the end of the sentence is what the universe is focused on. It's what your point of attraction is focused on. So sick, late, traffic, right? So instead, if you were to be like, I intend to stay healthy, I intend to get there at the perfect time, setting intentions is that polar opposite of the fears and the don't wants, right? Setting intentions is fully forming a focus on what you do want to happen. So when it comes to like your home, right, and not having a home, or having, looking at the possibility of your home situation changing and needing to find a home really fast, to be honest with you, that is probably one of the greatest fears that can really spiral a person. At least for me, I need a home. I need to feel safe. I need to be able to hang things on the wall. I need to be able to come home and have, like, we call our house our sanctuary, because it's like no matter what happens out in the world in the day, and how crazy life is, and how many people we have to deal with, and how much traffic, and we live in a very busy area where there's a lot of people. No matter what we deal with outside of the home, when we walk into our house, it's this feeling of like, we're home. It's peaceful. We've made sure that we've created a sanctuary of peace in the relationships with the people that we live with. So that's super important, to have that break from the world and the energy and all of the whatever chaos is going on out there, to be able to have that. So when you're looking at that and you're looking at it potentially being threatened, that's going to call up a lot of these fears. And most of the fears probably come from childhood. Maybe you had situations in your family where your house wasn't real stable. Maybe you have had experiences later on in life where you were homeless or faced homelessness or had threats of homelessness, whatever it is. Because of that, you are being invited to look at that. And it's so necessary to look at it, to clear it, and to say, what is my worst fear? Now, this isn't like looking at your worst fear so you can like activate worst case scenarios, but sometimes looking at your worst fear helps you to dissipate it, because you go, well, why would I consider that? Why would I want that to happen? Right? Because anything you're focused on expands. So why would you focus on a scenario that's going to create something that you don't want to create? It's kind of silly. When you really think about it, it's pretty silly. So, get down to the nitty gritty. Start asking yourself those questions. What am I fearful of? Where did this fear, like, what am I fearful of? What is the emotion? Get in touch with the emotion. This is how you create emotional intelligence. Get in touch with the emotion. Oh, I feel powerless. I feel unsupported. I feel scared. I feel insecure. Get to those emotions, and then ask yourself, where was the first time I ever felt this emotion in my life experience? And a memory will pop up. And then you can look at that memory. You can see how old you were. You can see how kind of silly it was, and how, those scenarios actually helped you to find your power. And then you can ask for it to be released. And then after you do the releasing work, when the thoughts come back up, right? Like when the shitty committee brings those thoughts back up, you can recognize them and you can say, not today. I'm not doing that today. I refuse to think those thoughts. I refuse to activate what I don't want. I refuse to be positioned in worst case scenarios. And that's how you change the trajectory of it. So then as you move forward, come up with some interrupters, come up with some statements that make you feel better, or listen to things that make you feel better, right? Because we have this like grand forgetting that happens. And especially if you you're like in the beginning of your awakening journey, and you're just starting to realize how powerful you are, and you're just coming out of victimhood, you're just coming out of powerlessness, you're still very close to that. So it's still very easy for your neural pathways and your old self to call you back. So you got to recognize it. You got to create that space through meditation. And then you got to look at it and you got to say, that's not me anymore. I don't resonate with that anymore. I don't have that resonance with fear. Anytime you have a fear, you're looking at something very different than the actual God, source, universe is seeing it, right? Because you put all this stuff in your desires. That's what the universe wants to work on. But because you're pointed in the wrong direction, you slow the energy down. Anytime we're focused on what we don't want, we're slowing the energy towards what we do want. Because when we're in the problem, we cannot find the solution. You have to you have to be more solution oriented, and you have to set up a plan, right? That's why writing is the strongest form of focus. Set up a plan of what you do want to happen and look at it often and feel it and visualize it. And, ask for a miracle. Miracles happen all the time. I've said this recently to a few different people. And whenever I say it, I feel this peace come over them because it is the energy of remembering. Things are always working out for me. Something, there's forces that have my back, whether you believe in the universe or God or source or angels or whatever you believe in. There is always a force that has your back. It's just what direction are you focused in? Because that non-physical support can't come to you if you don't invite it in, or if you are insisting that things are not working out, right? Because the non-physical support is in the energy of solution. The non-physical support is like looking to orchestrate for you so things work out. But if you're over here dealing with chaos, right? Trying to hammer things into place, trying to push things into place, fretting and worrying and complaining and being a victim, then it's like this. You're at the, you're at this timeline down here, and the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is up here wanting to get to you, but you've got to raise your vibration to get there. So how do you raise your vibration? Clearly, meditating, listening to things that help you remember. So I have, 200 and something episodes that will help you to remember. Reading something that will help you remember. I have a channeled message every single day. I also have a ton of books, which I might as well share right now. This one's really spiritual and will help to activate that faith in you. The Perfect Unfolding for the Expansion of Your Soul. Let me put up right here on the left hand of my screen here is the QR code. If you are on the podcast site, you won't see it. So go over to my YouTube channel, Manifest to Live Life Golden, like it, subscribe, then you'll get to see the QR code. And once you scroll over the QR code with your phone camera, a little link will come up and it'll take you right to the Amazon so you can order it. This has really deep spiritual messages in it. Then Mindful Manifestations Journal. This is a daily guide, so it's 100 pages of information. It's also hardcover and really beautiful, and it has a ton of journaling exercises in here and intentions. Like, wouldn't it be great to set an intention like this? Today, I easily accept when things don't go as planned, and I am in total acceptance of the path that unfolds. I trust in the universe and know that things are happening for me and not to me. Is that not the perfect thing to read? It really was. Mindful Manifestation Secrets. And the journal, you really need the QR code because it's a bit hidden in Amazon. Mindful Manifestation Secrets. This one is The Science of Creating. And this is my story from moving from Connecticut to California. And it gives you a lot of really helpful scientific ways, tools that you can use for manifesting. And then I have Quantum Speak for Parents. This is an awesome book for parenting, energetic parenting, how to set up the right vibration between you and your children and your family to create that sanctuary, to create peace in your home, to create love, to create communication and relationship, and not to be at odds with each other or fighting or feel like you're against each other. That was probably one of my biggest goals in life, and hello, achieved. Okay, moving on. Fears, false evidence appearing real. So you've got this emotional guidance system, right? The system that tells you that when you tune in to certain thoughts, right? 16 seconds, another thought's going to join it in another 16 seconds. And once you get to 68 seconds, an emotion is evoked. Now, once you start to feel the emotion, you've got a little bit of momentum going with the thoughts, right? So recognizing it as soon as possible is key. And the best way to do that is to meditate every day. So you've got some space to be able to see that. And then the second thing would be, once you recognize it, once you have the awareness around it, to choose a better feeling thought. So something that gets you is saying, I don't need to think about that right now. What do I want to happen? And focusing on something which might actually not even be part of the subject. You might need to focus on something like the birds, the flowers, the trees. You might need to completely distract yourself so that you can raise your vibration. This is all about raising your vibration, getting out of the lower, denser frequencies, which is like survival mode, feeling unsupported, worrying about your future, worrying about things you can't do anything about, right? If you look at the world stage right now, it gives you a lot to be concerned about. Paying attention to it is not going to help you. Some people feel, and I know that I used to feel this way, like, oh, I have to watch the news because I need to know what's going on. But first of all, you can't really trust it. And second of all, if it's not what you want, then why would you focus on it? Right? Well, it's reality. But whose reality is it? Right? Just because it streams across your television or it comes across your Facebook feed, you get to decide in every single moment with every single piece of information whether it needs to be true for you or not. Or if you can deny it, if you can say that's not in my world. I remember a few years ago when there was like a ton of fear in the world. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I remember that I kept focusing, I kept tuning in. There were definitely days when I complained and when I didn't like what was happening and all of that. But I continued to focus. I continued to reach for better feeling thoughts. And because of that, I started to see changes in my environment that supported what I really did want to live. So it really does work. It absolutely 100% works. Just focus on what you want to happen. Focus on the world that you want to live in, the world that you want to create. Your emotions will tell you where you are and will tell you if you've done a good job of going within, healing, asking the right questions, revealing the big reveal of what the fear is, right? Anytime you look at that fear, anytime you face a fear, it will dissipate because you're calling it out. You're like, you can't hide from me. I'm going to look at you and I'm going to see all of the indiscrepancies between you and who I am. So I like to think of this as a GPS system. So when you're going somewhere, right, when you get in your car and you type in the address, the GPS system needs to know where you are first, right? The GPS can't go from point A to point B if it doesn't know that you're at point A, right? It won't be able to tell you the roads to take to get to B because it doesn't know where you're starting from. So when you acknowledge the fears, when you look at the fears, it's like setting your GPS for the address that you're at. This is where I am, right? You're also accepting it. Because anytime you're avoiding or pushing fears down, you're not accepting them. So they're going to hang out because you're in resistance to them. They're going to hang out because you create kind of this roadblock situation where you can't move past the fears because you won't acknowledge them. So it kind of keeps you in this stuck place. That's why it's like an imprisonment. So once you do look at the fears, you're basically putting in your address and then you can go, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm feeling. I don't want to feel this way. So now I need to go in, look for where these fears started, look for the energy and the emotion that it's representing, right? Like it's not just fear. There's something under the fear that drives the fear. So it might be powerlessness, it might be victimhood, it might be feeling unsupported, right? Being fearful of your support in the universe. It might be just a block in your logical thinking. Like think about this. If you logically don't have the money like right now, you don't have the money for a down payment for a new place, that's going to cause some real fear in you, right? In fact, when we moved into this house, they asked for a $4,000 security deposit, which was or $3,750, I think it was, which was our rent when we were moving in. And we could pull that together, but right before we'd already signed the lease, that was the crazy thing. They asked for an extra $3,750. And I know and keep this in mind, any place I've ever lived in, and this is a belief probably, and probably screws me every time, that getting your security deposit can be very challenging. Like they'll find reasons to not give you your security deposit back, which I believe is quite illegal, but it's happened to us a couple times. So I have some momentum on that. So I was like, no way am I going to give like almost $8,000 to these people and then them play games about getting it back to me. So I said no. And my real estate agent could not believe I said no. She's like, you can't lose this place. Like, this is the best place we found. This place is so beautiful. And I go, that place is mine. So I know that I have the ability to do that. And I also knew at that point that I was standing in my worthiness, and I was saying, no way, we bring so much to the table. And our credit scores at that point were like almost 700. And we had explained why our credit scores dipped before that and what happened and how we built ourselves back up. And, I wrote a letter. I sent pictures of my family. I did everything I possibly could to win over these people. So that was the other part of it. I was at peace because I did so much. I was like, there's nothing more I need to do. Now it's just universal orchestration. So I said no, and we ended up getting the place, no problem. So sometimes, looking for that guidance within you will tell you what you need to do instead of acting desperate or in fear. It's having that faith and that knowing. And you're not going to get that faith and knowing if you're running around all the time. You're only going to get it when you sit, when you're quiet, and you have a relationship with your higher states of consciousness. And you feel like that's impossible. I would challenge you on that because I've taught hundreds of people to meditate that thought they couldn't meditate, and they absolutely could. It's just setting the intention, being determined about it, and understanding it's a practice. So the more you practice, the better it's going to get, and not judging your practice. Because if you judge it, then you're going to be like, oh, I was thinking the whole time, I totally screwed that up. Don't do that. You're beating yourself up. That doesn't go anywhere. It's more about the breaks of thought that you're not even totally aware of, that you're getting huge benefits from. And that's what disengages you from this monkey mind, right? From those unconscious, automatic neural pathway habits for fear and worry. As you create that space, you make room for a new you. You make room for a new life, because you're no longer going to send out the same signals, because now you've raised your vibration. Your signal is going to change. And when you change your signal, you change your life, because now new things can come to you, right? Those things that you feel faithful about, you can see miracles. You can see things happening. You can feel the energy start to move. I love that feeling. I love when I feel energy move. If you're really paying attention, you will feel energy move. So if you don't necessarily have like a down payment or a deposit right now and you're needing to move, I would set very strong intentions. I would write down exactly what you want to happen, exactly how much money you need. I would be thankful and grateful in present tense for that money showing up for me. I would spend no time worrying or feeling anxious. And if I do feel the fears and the worries and the anxieties, I would sit down, I would journal, I would flush them out, I would listen to things that help me remember, and I would do my very, very, very best to be in the highest vibration possible, which means no complaining, no judging, no self critical thinking or talking to yourself. No, what else? What else do I want to say? No desperate energy, right? When we're just like running around acting like a crazy person. I would spend time looking for a place, but that brings me joy, only if it brings you joy. I mean, think about that one house that we did manifest. I had been looking, but I didn't find it through that avenue. And that's happened to us so many times. In fact, this house, which is so funny, I was not going to come look at it because it was more expensive than the house we were in by I ended up negotiating. It was listed at $44,095. The only pictures they had of this house were a little piece of the kitchen, a tree outside, and part of the closet, because they have like a cool closet system, right? I wasn't going to look at it, but my real estate agent was like, I really feel like we need to look at this one. And I remember feeling like, okay, it's time for us to up level, but it didn't make any sense because, we were having a little trouble paying the other rent. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense to get more, but that's what an up level sometimes is. It's a huge leap of faith. And we're fortunate, blessed, made this happen. We own our own business, so we do have control over our economy, which really everyone does, because anyone can start a side business. Anyone can do something on the side of their actual job. Anyone can manifest money. Anyone can win the lottery. Anyone can get an inheritance. I mean, anyone at any time can create the miracle of money coming into their experience through another avenue. So open yourself up. That's the other thing that meditating does, is it opens you up to receive. When you trust that, you're going to receive. So open yourself up. So putting it down, what is the amount that you feel like you need? And then look for something, like start looking and getting excited. Start telling people you're looking for a place. We were telling everybody we knew, and that's why that place came. And the journey of looking at 25 houses, which I'm probably exaggerating the number. It was probably more like 10. It felt like 25. The journey of doing that was clarification, because every single place that I looked at gave me clarity about what I do want and what I don't want. So it helped to clarify my list, and then putting it down on paper, trusting. I still have this piece of paper. It's so cool to like look back and go, we did that. In fact, I would write these stories out. It's called scripting, where you write a story out like it's present tense. And I would write stories before we moved to California about what it was like living here. And I could read those stories back today, and I'm living those stories. It absolutely works. It's like magic, because it's focus, it's intention, it's determination. And it's like putting your order in with Amazon. It literally, you're putting your order in with the universe. You're saying what you want. You're being clear about it, and you're sending the energetic alignment to it. You are setting your GPS up for it. So it's like, this is where I am. I'm in a situation. I need to get out of it. Where am I going to go next? What would I like to manifest next? Not what your little tiny small self can imagine, right? Not that little, this is what's possible. What is possible? Like, can you dream a little bigger? Can you allow yourself to manifest bigger by not keeping yourself in this small box? If you like where you live right now, what if you moved to a place that you loved where you lived, where there were way better circumstances that could potentially be cheaper even? Might be more expensive, but that's that faith, right? Like that's that leap of faith that sometimes we need to make. It's not about like making a bad decision and spending more money than you have. This is about being conscious and intentional and listening to your inner guidance. Our inner guidance told us that we could handle this, and it's been 8 years and we've been able to handle it with no trouble at all. So that was the faith, that was the up level. That's where we felt like we really belonged, and we really love it here. We do. So your next place is going to be where, and this goes along the lines of anything you're fearful of, anything you're looking to manifest, even if it has, nothing to do with money. If it's a relationship, if it's trying to think of what else, friendships, if it's a job or a new career, anything that you're looking to manifest, creating more business for yourself, creating better income for yourself. It's looking at that. It's noticing where you are, right? It's taking a note of where you are, and then it's putting that address in, right? You got to put the address in your GPS to get there. What's the address? What does it look like? What does that road look like? And what kind of intentions can I set? And then what kind of breadcrumbs can I follow to get there? Because you're constantly going to be seeing signs and evidence of how to get there. And oftentimes it does take a leap of faith, and leaps of faith are not for the weak. They're not. But none of you are weak. None of you out there, especially if you're listening to this show, you are not weak. You have infinite intelligence on your side. So you are an expression of all that is. So you have the potential to be, have, or do anything that you want. It's just, can you get your belief system in alignment with that? Alignment is so important. When you think about what you're looking to manifest, are you in alignment with it, or are you still in the doubts and the fears and the talking yourself out of it? Right? Are you in alignment with it, or are you putting it way out in the future? Are you asking yourself, who do I need to be in this moment to manifest that? Or are you just working on automatic behaviors where you're not really intending for where you want your life to go? Alignment is so important. All right, so we're going to do, I just have a couple minutes left. Wow, did that fly by? We're going to do a quick little exercise on releasing fear, and this is something that you can use. We are at minute 50, we'll call it 51. Anytime you can go back to minute 51 and use this to clear fear, or you can do it on your own. All right, close your eyes. If you're driving, then wait till later. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Take another deep breath. And when you let this one out, I want you to imagine all the tension is leaving your body. So I want you to imagine that the tension behind your eyes or in your forehead, and just keep breathing and letting go. And breathe out extra long. Get all the stale air out of your lungs. Flood your body with this beautiful oxygen. And I want you to feel your body. So I want you to feel yourself sitting in your seat. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your neck. Is your neck straight? Is it pulled back, or are you like letting it go forward? I want you to connect with your mind. So that beautiful place inside of your forehead, where you should have a very blank slate. All right, so I want you to think right now and ask yourself, what is my greatest fear? Ooh, it's already activating. It's already trying to leave. So notice where you feel that fear in your body. Is it in your heart? Mine was in my stomach, which is your power center, so that makes sense. But notice if you feel it in your lower back, or if you feel it in your shoulders, or you feel it in your heart, or you feel it in your throat, right? That's like, remember the feeling of like where your throat gets really big and blocked and you feel like you can't speak? It's because you got energy blocking it. So notice where that fear is in your body, and then take a deep breath and ask what the emotion is under the fear. And then when you have the emotion, ask, when is the first time I ever felt this? And see if a memory pops up. And then note how old you were when that memory popped up. And keep in mind that our belief systems are created by the age of 7. So anything as a small child that created fear or made us feel like we were in survival mode or needed to protect ourselves, those can be core belief systems. And if those core belief systems are reaped or racked in fear, then the alignment of fear will be really easy for us. So notice that, notice the age. And then ask for that emotion, ask for that fear to fully release, and take a deep, deep breath and focus on that part of your body where it was stuck. And I want you to breathe it out. And when you breathe it out, imagine it's smoke coming out through the top of your head and it's releasing. Oh, we are releasing for somebody. My hands are getting tingly. So good. Take another deep breath. And ask for another layer of the fear, another layer of the emotions to be released. And take one more and ask for the final release of the emotions and the fear to fully leave you, to leave your body, to leave your DNA, to leave your genetic structure, to leave your aura, to leave your field, to leave your mind, and to leave your entire state of being. And just blow it away. And notice how you feel. If you feel any more heaviness or any more energy in your body that doesn't feel good, keep breathing, keep asking, keep intending, and keep releasing any emotions or energy that comes up. But if you feel like I do and you feel lighter and you feel free, I want you to call in more light. So we're asking for the light of abundance, the light of our non-physical guides, angels, God, source, universe. We're asking for this light to come through our neural pathways and do a beautiful cleanse of freedom, of faith, of wonder, of awe, of miracles. And just let this light stream in a circle all the way around the top of your head, through your brain, through your temples and eyes, through your jaw. Let this light swirl all the way around your throat, almost like a hula hoop, but it's also penetrating in your body. So as it goes around, it's going through. So I can just see these hula hoops of light. And then bring it through the top of your shoulders, releasing the top of your shoulders and your neck. Coming through the center of your body where your heart is, releasing that heart so it's available to love and to recognize love. And then coming all the way down your sacral, releasing your power center, releasing your solar plexus, the bottom of your body, the root chakra, so you can feel support and love, and freedom and trust. And then let that light go all the way down your legs and your feet, releasing, relaxing your hands, putting yourself in this light of faith and freedom and trust and love, where you belong. That's all we have time for. I love y'all. Peace out.